they talking real loud, spreading no light, trying to bring me down. Enemies lurking, but I won't back away. Got a vision in my mind, I'm here to stay. Got my crew beside me, we rise like a tide. When the storm gets rough, we ain't gonna hide. Propaganda swirling, but it won't touch me. Only love around us, how it's gonna be. Keep moving forward, never looking back. The truth's in the power, it's an unstoppable track. In the city lights where dreams collide, we hustle through the night, fire in our stride. Whispers in the dark can't dim my glow. With rhythm in my soul, I'm ready for the show. We break the chains, rewrite the rules in this concrete jungle where nobody's fools. Unity sings louder than the lies they scheme. In the heart of the struggle, we dare to dream. Keep moving forward, never looking back. The truth's in the power, it's an unstoppable track.
Another Queen Ahmadiyyah production.
Haze on the corner, they talking real loud, spreading no light, trying to bring me down. Enemies lurking, but I won't back away. Got a vision in my mind, I'm here to stay. Got my crew beside me, we rise like a tide. When the storm gets rough, we ain't gonna hide. Propaganda swirling, but it won't touch me. Only love around us, how it's gonna be. Keep moving forward, never looking back. The truth's in the power, it's an unstoppable track. In the city lights where dreams collide, we hustle through the night.
Yo, can I get that wall? Can I get that must? Can I get those jeans? Can I get that truck? Can I get that Morgan Wallen on a loop? Can I get ice all around the USA? I was like Trump, hey, do you think you could put a red hat on a Barbie? Okay, let's get it now. I'm with the MAGAs, we in a church. I don't say hi, say we Charlie Kirk. We Charlie Kirk, we Charlie Kirk. Motherfucking right, I'm a motherfucking turf. If a news come get cute, I'ma rip him. Tweet a lot of tweets at him and yell diss him, then yell diss him, then make every kid detransition. Excuse me, I'm sorry, I'm really such a sweetie. I rap Republicans, you know Sydney Sweeney, and we be giving donuts to the police on the daily. We give a lot of money to Elon, Donald, and JD, yelling all around the states. Do you hear me? Everybody hates the LGBT. Rest in peace to my old stances. Yes, my dear, I fear the trans kids. Say hi to Ted and Ron DeSantis. Now which one of you men gonna part of my manses?
All right. Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning back in once again to the original Queen Ahmadiyyah Shakur show. I'm your host, Queen Ahmadiyyah Shakur, and this is your Daily Vitamins. Okay, so before we get started, as per usual, let's have a brief word from my sponsor at 12 Tribes.
Do not buy 12 Tribes on Earth hair growth oil and hair magic elixir unless you want super healthy, gorgeous hair that grows. They have a whole line of amazing hair growth products, including hair growth leave-in conditioner spray, hair growth shampoo, hair growth spray, and hair growth butter. I'm starting to sense a theme here. They include quality natural ingredients. They smell amazing, and you can see the results for yourself. So if you're looking for healthy hair growth for your natural or relaxed hair, try 12 Tribes on Earth today.
Okay, so that all being said, don't forget you can purchase 12 Tribes hair oil at Etsy.com. Just look for Lisa Kratz. All right, so with that all being said, let's see who all is in here. All right, Byron B, We the People, Danielle, all right, Claudette, I see you, beloved, Dangerous, Miss Lucille, Queen Amoni Huey, all right, Reggie. Okay, Claudette, let's get into it. A shout out to my moderators for putting in work, and shout out to all of my loyal royals. Y'all know I love me some you. Okay, so now with that all being said, I see you, Leon. Now with that all being said, let's get into it. Because Trump, there's always something new with him. You know, before we get into Trump, let's talk about Bill Gates. Because due to the Epstein files, his ex-wife, has now come out and she's speaking on it. Now, she sounded very disingenuous, in my opinion. But let's go to a clip. Melinda Gates responds after Epstein files suggest Bill Gates got an STD from Russian girls and planned to secretly medicate her. Okay, let's get into it. Now, I'm going to be using an overlay because I don't have permission to use this footage.
The emails in the files suggest that Bill Gates had additional affairs and that he tried to get medication to treat a sexually transmitted infection, and that he was going to give you the medicine without you knowing. His representative has said all of this is false. It is not on you to have to respond to the details of that alleged behavior, but I wonder what your dominant emotion is when you read these news articles with these details.
Sad. Just unbelievable sadness. Unbelievable sadness, right? And again, I'm able to take my own sadness and look at those young girls and say, my God, how did that happen to those girls, right? And so for me, it's just sadness for, I left my marriage. I had to leave my marriage. I wanted to leave my marriage. I had to leave I felt I needed to eventually leave the foundation. So it's just sad. That's the truth, right? And it's kind of like, at least for me, I've been able to move on in life.
Now, let me tell you all something. This lady, she couldn't even fake it. Now, this is my opinion, of course. Others may disagree. But when I sit here and listen to her speaking, she did not sound genuine or authentic. It's like she couldn't even muster up the fakeness. You know how some of these Karens will sit there and they'll get all teary-eyed and, pretend to be so sad and all of that. She couldn't even muster it up. I mean, she's just like cold-blooded to the point. Avery said she looks like a dude. Well, some people say that she was at some point. I don't know if that's true. But the bottom line is this lady has no empathy and sympathy. She doesn't care about those victims. Everything was just, it's so sad. And I was so sad. And it's just really sad. And when I thought about those girls and how they were able, if I'm so sad, how could they not be so sad? What? Okay, I just thought it was just all so ridiculous. I mean, of course, like I said, that's my opinion. But what do you all think? I mean, did anyone think that she was sincere? Sheila said no feelings at all. Exactly. That's what I got. Okay. Reggie said she's traumatized in a way. You think so? I don't think she's traumatized. I think she knew exactly what Bill Gates was doing. Because I think Bill Gates is one of those people too. I think he's doing the same stuff that everybody else that's been accused on that file is doing. And I think that she knew about it. I think the wives know these things. A lot of times they don't say anything and they put up with it because of the lifestyle they're living or whatever. Okay, at the end of the day, that's just what I think. I don't think she's innocent. I really don't at all. Now, with that all being said, is Barillas Loon in here? Because I think Barillas Loon, let me address this because I was going to address this earlier, but you all got me off track when I started reading the comments. Okay, so I think it was Barillas Loon who spoke yesterday when I said something about thinking that Elon Musk was the Antichrist. And I said, I think that he's at least one of them. And then someone left a comment, and I think it was you, beloved. If it wasn't, correct me, but said, you didn't think that was him because the Antichrist is supposed to be someone in politics or something like that. Well, here's the thing. I've said before, I don't think the Antichrist is a person. That's not what I think. I think that the Antichrist, because remember, the Bible speaks allegorically, okay, in many instances, not all, but in some. But I do believe that the Antichrist is an energy. And I believe that when they were trying to open that portal, when they were dealing with Project CERN, I think they were trying to raise the Antichrist energy. And I told you all that. Those of you who were listening when I was talking about that a couple of years ago. But at the end of the day, I think it's an energy, and that energy can be attached to more than one person. It's like a power. Okay, it's like a power, like a force, and it can be attached to more than one person, in my opinion. It's like the Christ consciousness. You see, the Antichrist consciousness, okay, would be the opposite of that. So that's what I'm talking about. Someone taking on this wicked, nefarious, low vibrational, demonic, satanic energy. That would be Antichrist like. Okay, so that's what I was talking about. I hope that is more makes it a little bit more clear. Because with that being said, listen, I definitely think Elon is one of those people. And also, if you heard the story about what his former nanny had to say about him, I absolutely believe that story, and I absolutely believe that he definitely has that
The
energy.
email
Okay, now with that all being said,
in the
let's
files
continue,
suggest that
because
Bill Gates had additional
something
affairs
else I found
and that he
interesting
tried
was
to
the
get
fact.
medication to treat a sexually
Let
transmitted
me
infection.
turn this out. Okay, another thing that was interesting is the fact that all of a sudden, we have R. Kelly back in the news. Don't y'all find that interesting? R. Kelly's back in the news right after these bombshell, blockbuster, okay, explosive Epstein files are dropped. Because the person who was in that 2001 or 2002 video, who was supposedly 14 at the time, that person has written a book, and now they've come out and they were interviewed by CBS, which I find interesting, because we all know that CBS is a friend to Trump, okay, because Trump has the goods on them. Okay, remember, that's why they paid Trump off for that lawsuit he filed against them, because even though they knew that there's no way he could win in court, okay, but they went ahead and settled with him because they needed favors. Okay, and so now they interviewed this lady. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because I have told you all a myriad of times that when there is, something that happens where there is a Caucasian man in the media for nefarious sexual acts, there comes a black man to be in the front of it, to become the face of it. Weinstein, and then they put out Surviving R. Kelly. Within months of Weinstein getting exposed and people coming out in the whole Me Too movement, within months of Weinstein comes R. Kelly, and then all of a sudden everybody focused on R. Kelly and not Weinstein. Then even with the Diddy trial, Weinstein was having his retrial at the exact same time Diddy was on trial. So nobody was talking about Weinstein. Many people probably didn't even know that he was even on trial. And I've pointed this out to you all before. So with that all being said, now that we have all of this stuff coming out with all of these Caucasian men, and they want to make the black men the face of it so bad, that's why they put Jay-Z's name and Pusha T's names out there. When there was much more worse allegations than the ones against Jay-Z and Pusha T. And here's the thing. Even if we think Jay-Z's nefarious, the bottom line is the stuff that they were talking about in the Epstein files, they admit that that was just tips, that somebody called into a tip line anonymously or something like that. It's unverified claims. It's what they literally listed as unverified claims that they have no proof of. But with these other allegations, well, there's witnesses, not somebody calling a tip line. There's actual witnesses who said these things were done to them by this person and that person and that person. How is this not viable evidence? How is this not viable evidence? Make it make sense. And Reggie said all of it can be corroborated. Yes. Marilla said, preach, Queen, you're spot on. Thank you, beloved. At the end of the day, many of these witnesses said the same exact things. They told the same stories. They can't all be lying and making this up. A lot of these people didn't even know each other. But here they come now. Like I said, R. Kelly's all of a sudden back in the news. Now, even if the young lady who wrote the book about R. Kelly, even if her release date was initially February the 3rd, it's very convenient that CBS wants to interview her, okay, at this particular time. Because I'll guarantee you, if her book was always coming out February the 3rd, CBS knew about it before February the 3rd. Okay? And so it's the timing of it all for me. I just want y'all to pay attention because how many times have I said it? So I'm going to go to this interview that she did. It was just a little short interview, but nonetheless, enough to put R. Kelly's name back out there and get people back talking, and especially trying to purchase this book to make everybody all of a sudden stop talking about the Epstein files. But it's not going to happen over here because we're going to keep talking about these files. That's what we're going to do. Okay? Now let me share my screen. Likes up, everyone, please don't forget to like and share. Okay, Pio Bunyan said, why don't they interview Maxwell? Exactly. They interview people from prison all the time, right? Why won't they interview her? Nah, that's not what they want to do.
R. Kelly was convicted of racketeering and sex crimes in 2 separate federal trials in 2021 and 2022, but his legal trouble started many years before that. Way back in 2001, there was a sex tape that was leaked, and on that tape showed a 14-year-old girl. That girl's name was Roshona Landfair. She was also known as Jane Doe during one of R. Kelly's trials. She's now 41 years old, and Landfair spoke with Jerika Duncan in her first television interview about her new book, which is called Who's Watching Shorty, and what made her first want to speak out. Jerika is here now to talk about this. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning. You know, she says that becoming a mother and, of course, the Surviving R. Kelly docuseries released in 2019 were 2 major reasons why she says she wrote this book. And keep in mind, Roshona Landfair back then denied being the young girl on the tape. And because of that, Kelly was not convicted back in 2008 when he first stood trial on child pornography charges. Here's a clip of my interview that we shared on social media. Take a listen. January 3rd, 2019, Surviving R. Kelly airs. Did you see all 6? It's a 6-part series. Did you see all of it?
I don't know if I saw all of it, but I saw enough.
And you thought
That was the spirit of conviction came over me during that moment.
And when you say the spirit of conviction, what do you mean by that?
Somehow I felt responsible that he was able to hurt so many more people. During the time, I thought maybe these were just sexual fetishes that he had with me. Maybe this was just abuse I was going through. But when I saw that his behavior had gotten so much worse, and he was allowed to hurt so many people because I lied, that did not sit well with me as an adult, as a woman.
In March of that same year, Gayle King sat down with him and the 2 women he was in a relationship with at the time. Did you happen to see that?
I did.
I didn't do this stuff. This is not me. I'm fighting for my life. Y'all killing me with this. I gave out 30 years of my career.
Robert.
30 years of my career.
Well, first I thought it was very Broadway of him to act like that. That was very normal for him to have that type of response. And when I heard those girls speak, I knew exactly who was talking through them. I knew exactly what mission they had, the convincing, the firmness, everything that I had been trained and groomed to do. I read right in between that. And in that moment, I did not feel sorry for him at all. I felt like, you still don't get it.
In her book, Who's Watching Shorty, she says that her aunt, R&B singer Sparkle, was someone who told her at one point to sit on R. Kelly's lap at around 12 years old and ask Kelly if he would be her godfather. Now, we reached out to Sparkle, who said she is relieved that Roshona is on her healing journey, but Sparkle also said this: any suggestion that I groomed, facilitated, or enabled harm to my niece is untrue and deeply painful. As for R. Kelly, who is currently serving sentences for 2 federal convictions, an attorney representing him told us they could not comment on specific allegations in the book without reading it. And the attorney added that Kelly wishes Roshona success and peace at all levels. There is so much in this
So many
book.
layers.
And I think, even when I sat down with him, we're going to post an extended clip on YouTube later today. But it's this idea that you were the person we were all sort of looking for come 2017, 18, when all these allegations start again. And that docuseries was so pivotal. I remember being in this newsroom and saying, hey, guys, there's a documentary coming out on Lifetime. And it was like, okay. And then the numbers spoke. 2 million, or I think it was like 1.2 million people tuned in, which was a big deal for Lifetime. And I think you saw the engagement online. This is a time sort of post the Me Too era, if you will, where people felt more comfortable speaking their truth and the shame wasn't there in the same way. Because as we were talking, as this clip was running, there's a certain level of acceptance historically. I always go back to history. I'm a study of history. And you have young women who have been with older men. And sometimes it's not a big deal. But in this case, when you look at the power dynamic and you look at the number,
I didn't mean to do that, beloved. Hold on.
Wonder if
something to be said, and this is her time now to share her story.
I think one of the things that struck me is when she says that she watched that docuseries and then she began to wonder if she began to think about all the other young women who is alleged that R. Kelly sexually abused and how it made her wonder and worry that maybe she was a catalyst in some way for that by not coming forward back in 2001.
That's right, because I mean, the video is leaked. What also is very interesting, Vlad and Chanel, is that he apparently tells Rashona, let's just tell your parents that we're in love. I know this sounds crazy. She writes about it in the book, and apparently, according to her, arranged a hotel meeting. And the father, who is since deceased, Rashona's father, he died in 2021, he was furious and said, you're sick, you need help. And this is someone who, again, worked with R. Kelly as a guitarist. So you have all of these sort of conflicting narratives.
And what you said on CBS Mornings is what she told you. Because as I watched that little section, I thought I have a daughter and I could not imagine I would want to kill this person. And she said, I had to convince my father not to go to the authorities. And I did that by telling him I might kill myself. I did that by saying all sorts of terrible things, which if your daughter or somebody you love says they're going to take their own life if you do something, now you're stuck between a rock and a hard place. Should you go to the authorities, report this individual, or...
But that trauma was happening, she says, at a very young age. And so that kind of behavior makes sense because it's not a sensible thing to have to go through.
I was going to say, I challenge anyone at 12, 13, 14, such a vulnerable place in anyone's life, to be wooed by this megastar and not allow that to kind of continue on in your 20s and in her case, even into her 30s.
Stories help.
I hope so. I mean, that's the point. She said this story is for people who've been through trauma. She dedicates it to her father. Again, he died in 2021, and her son, who's now 5 years old, and herself.
Jerika, thank you very much for your reporting.
Thank you.
Following the story.
I am sorry, but they are also lame to me. They just give lame, okay? Reggie said Tarika is pretty. Yeah, she is, but they're all still lame. Okay, I met Tarika when I was at the Diddy trial. But let me tell you all something. At the end of the day, that guy sitting up there talking about he'd want to kill somebody, that just made me want to cackle because he knows darn well he's not about that life, okay? He's not even about that life. But I just find it very interesting how they're having such a candid conversation about that, but what they're not talking about is what's really going on in these Epstein files, okay? Why aren't they talking about the part where somebody gave permission to kill somebody, or how they were eating intestines and then eating the feces out of the intestines, okay? How come they're not talking about all of that? I have so many questions. Or how many times Trump's name was mentioned? Let's get into it. The likes up, everyone, please like and share. Okay? because we're still on it, dog on it. Okay, they're not going to get us off track. We will not be distracted. Okay. Now, I reported on that mainly just to show you all that this is what they always do. Because I keep telling you all and showing you all this is what they always do.
For the name Trump in the Department of Justice's so-called Epstein library, it returns 5,176 results, more than 38,000 mentions of his name. What do those results tell us? Well, there are interview notes with Epstein survivors who name Donald Trump. Some of them reference Mar-a-Lago, his home in Florida. But to date, we have not found any of them alleging wrongdoing by the president.
Yeah, David, there's a spreadsheet summary of unverified tips.
See, I don't understand. How are they saying that there's no accusations or allegations of wrongdoing by the president? When it says in there that Trump was threatening people, somebody had to get down on bended knee, they accidentally bit him, and then they got punched in the face. His security guard or head of security threatened someone that they'd be out there on one of his golf courses if they talked about what they knew or who they saw. Okay. Evelyn said, Queen, you're funny. Saying he's not about that life. He isn't. Sitting there talking about he want to kill somebody. Please. He's not going to bust a grape at a fruit fighting. That's facts. I'll bet you. Okay, so anyway, that's what I want you all to pay attention to, is that they keep saying there's no credible allegations or whatever against Trump. But there's numerous people saying things against Trump. But let's continue, because it's just all not making sense to me.
Which were submitted to the FBI. Now, I've seen it, you've seen it. This has been widely circulated online, and it does contain graphic descriptions of abuse and criminality. The thing about these complaints is that they are unsubstantiated, uncorroborated. They were made over an unspecified time frame, and in many instances from anonymous individuals. So
This man is lying. This man is lying. These things were not made from no darn anonymous individuals. Most of this stuff came from victims who actually said things had happened to them. Okay? The only one, there may be some that came from anonymous sources, but the only one that I really see that came from a so-called anonymous source is the one about Jay-Z with that Harvey Weinstein story. They said in the files that that is an unverified story by a tip that someone called into a hotline. Now, he's trying to act as though that's the case for most of this stuff. That's not true. You see how people tell lies? And let's not forget that I told you all that the administration is likely paying people on social media to spread propaganda and whatnot, because that's something that is being done now. Well, meanwhile, they'll take away the rest of our rights and we can't say certain things. We have to be censored. You see how that works? And then that's when you really just get one side of the story. Okay? If they start doing that even more so. But let's continue.
They're a trusted news organization, and that trust is based on responsible reporting. So that's the way we'll continue to handle our journalism as it relates to the Epstein files.
Lots of people ask why we repeatedly say being mentioned in the files is no evidence of wrongdoing. I think the best way to answer that is to say, if your plumber or electrician or whoever was arrested for wrongdoing, the fact that your name may be in their phone does not indicate any wrongdoing on your part.
It's certainly the case, David, isn't it? A lot of people have been waiting for the publication of these files, many thinking it would damage Trump. And to be fair, the prelude to publication probably encouraged that view, Trump's resistance to it in particular. It's not hurt him in a way so far that many might have expected. And I'm struck by how low the story is running here, in the United States. I think the way these files were published probably has something to do with that drip effect.
If you search for the name Trump in the Department of Justice's so-called Epstein library, it returns.
I want you all to pay attention, because when he said that if someone's name is in someone's phone and that's why you're mentioned, that doesn't mean you had any wrongdoing. Well, of course, that's obvious, because in fact, there are people whose names are mentioned in that sort of way. There's people whose names may have been mentioned in a conversation, but there's no one accusing that person of anything. But there are stories of people accusing Trump of stuff. And there's one exchange where they even say something about the number of Trump's accusers. And then let's not even forget about the limo driver who said he heard Trump on the phone and he got so angry with what Trump was saying that he wanted to pull over. The people that say they were threatened by him, the girls that say, or women now that say that they were R-worded by him. What are they talking about here? Okay, what are they talking about? This is all ridiculous. Now, let's go to something else that I thought was very troubling when I heard about it. You know, some of the victims, there were nude photos of them released. They were not supposed to do that. They were not supposed to release anything that was detrimental to the victims, not their names, their addresses, family members, definitely not nude pictures. But the thing is, they have released things about the victims while shielding the perpetrators. Let's not forget how that exchange where Epstein was thanking someone and telling them that he loved the torture video, and how they redacted the name of the person that he was responding to, or that he was sending that to. So they don't want us to know who sent him a torture video, okay? But they're telling on who the victims are and exposing their nude photos and whatnot.
News, Donald Trump and his Department of Justice released unredacted nude photos of victims in the Epstein files. Yes, this is how the government is handling this. As part of its required disclosure of the Epstein files, the federal government was tasked with redacting both explicit imagery and information that could be used to identify victims. But the New York Times came across nearly 40 unredacted images that appeared to be part of a personal photo collection showing both nude bodies and the faces of people portrayed. There were 7 different people in these photos, and of course the New York Times did not identify them for obvious reason, and the people in the photos appeared to be young, although it was unclear if they were children at the time that the photo was taken. Some of the photos showed Epstein's private island, including a beach. Others were taken in bedrooms and other private spaces. So not only has Donald Trump engaged in a disgusting cover-up of the Epstein files, but he's also now exposing the victims illegally. That's how Donald Trump is handling this. It is absolutely disgusting, and there shouldn't be a single American out there who defends this awful conduct. We have some major news. Donald Trump and his Department of Justice.
I have to absolutely agree. It's absolutely nefarious, okay? And the victims have gone through enough already. Can you imagine having been one of the victims and then to only survive this terrible ordeal and being traumatized clearly, and then you go forward afraid for your life because you know some people have come up missing, you may be receiving threats, who knows? But then after you share your story and hoping you're going to get justice, that someone's going to pay, no one does except for Ghislaine Maxwell. Okay, but no one else. There's no consequences after you put yourself out there on the line. That's real crazy. Okay, and I'm very convinced. I really think that they took the life of Virginia Giuffre. I don't think she did that to herself. But let's continue.
Is this name redacted? You would think the DOJ would want to investigate someone who sent an email to Jeffrey Epstein saying, quote, "I give you permission to kill him." Well, thankfully for all of us, the DOJ sucks at their job. And there's actually another version of that email that is less redacted, or more accurately, poorly redacted. Check this out. "I give you permission to kill him. He is apparently with Olga. He lied to you. He lied to me." And you can kind of make out the name here to be one Susan Hamblin. Here's an enhanced image. You could read right there, Susan Hamblin. So who is Susan Hamblin? Well, she is evidently a financial advisor and founder of the adoption agency Kids to Families. Looks like the agency no longer exists, but I was able to find this archive in the Wayback Machine. At this point, we still don't know who Olga is, but According to reporting, it says that the only time the name has come up in the Epstein case is when his former lawyer, Alan Dershowitz, recounted getting a massage from a woman of the same name at Epstein's place. Now, interestingly, a few years ago, Susan Hamblin sued News Group Newspapers, the publisher of The Sun, who had printed that Susan Hamblin had groomed and procured a 16-year-old woman to be sexually abused by Epstein and told her that Epstein would kill her and her family if she told anyone what Epstein had done. They've since removed those articles and agreed to pay her a substantial compensation. But one Sue Hamblin can be seen in this photo with Jeffrey Epstein describing her to be his alleged assistant, as well as this photo of her leaving Jeffrey Epstein's New York City apartment, describing her as a long-term confidant. A lot of stuff going on here, but the lesson is that this is all information that the DOJ wants to hide from us. But thank goodness the internet is still undefeated.
Okay. Now you see how these internet sleuths will go and find stuff, even when you try to redact it, okay? I find it also interesting. Okay, let's continue.
Wait, hold on. Did y'all hear that? Epstein said, he ain't want no black women on Epstein Island. He said, I don't want no NIGGERs, right? And in his other emails, he made it clear that he thinks black people as a whole, black people are ignorant and idiotic, and he doesn't want to be around them. We good. Boy, rejection is protection, ain't it? Shit. Because whenever those Epstein photos come out, you know what they're looking for, right? You know what people are really looking for? They're looking for black folks. They don't care. They know this thing is riddled with white folks, right? Whenever the Epstein photos come out, they're only looking for one thing and one thing only. Black folks. But my thing is this, right? A worldwide child ex-trafficker into all kind of nefarious things, all kind of craziness, demon worship, all these little weird things, right? All these weird projects he got going on, right? And they still got black folks on their mind somehow. Wait, hold on.
Did y'all hear that? I think I'm losing my voice. Did y'all hear that? Now that was hilarious. He said they got demon worship going on, all kinds of stuff, but they still got black folk on their mind. Okay, it's true. It is so true. Now listen, I meant to show you all this the other day. Remember when they came out and said that in the Epstein files, it exposed that Mamdani's mother was friends with Epstein? Okay, so apparently there's some fake images, some AI fraudulent images. This is all so ridiculous. AI is something else, okay? Let's get into it.
Purporting to show a young Zoran Mamdani and his mother posing with convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein are AI fakes. Yet these posts, with millions of views, falsely claim that the images are genuine. Here's one of them, by conspiracy theorist Alex Jones, who wrongly claims the images are bombshell news and could be evidence that the New York mayor might be related to Epstein. But where did these claims come from? The US Justice Department released a huge batch of the Epstein files on Friday. Among the documents is an email from October 2009 by entertainment publicist Peggy Siegel to Epstein. In it, Siegel talks about attending a party at convicted sex trafficker Ghislaine Maxwell's house for a film directed by Mamdani's mother, Mira Nair. Siegel says that Nair, Amazon CEO Jeff Bezos, and former President Bill Clinton attended the party. A parody account on X then posted these images. While the poster makes it clear their content is satirical, many users with large followings shared the images without mentioning the source. We ran a check on the Mamdani images using Google's SynthID tool, which looks for Google AI watermarks in images, videos, and audio clips. The check found all 3 images were made with Google AI. Other errors consistent with AI generation also appear in the images, including distorted backgrounds and Epstein holding Clinton in a manner that seems unrealistic. Mamdani is also the wrong age in the fake pictures. He was 18 in 2009. Nair's first marriage was to an artist named Mitch Epstein, but Mamdani is the son of her second husband. These images purporting to show...
What y'all have to say about this foolishness? Isn't that so crazy? They just don't give up. Now, who do you think did that? Who do you think did it? Okay, was it Trump? Was it Trump's administration? Now, listen, I forgot to tell you all about this morning, so we have to get into it. I wanted to talk about Pam Bondi, okay, or Blondie, what she has to say about Don Lemon. Okay, Bondi, this is from Fox. I want to hear what she has to say on Fox specifically. We know how they paint narratives. Bondi puts Don Lemon on blast. Okay, so I want to hear this. And then after we listen to it, Don Lemon did an interview with CBS. So I want to hear what he has to say also. Okay. Blair said, I'm so sick of these idiots. I am too, beloved. Okay, especially the main idiot, the one they call Trump. I wish he would just flee the country.
Here now with more and an update, U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi. Okay, let's talk about these two people, the 16 people last week. You were on the ground. You were in Minnesota. Tell us what you're seeing and what's coming.
Yeah, Sean, I've been in Minnesota 4 days total, working on obtaining this indictment. We arrested 2 more, and I made it very clear, if you protested, if you rioted in that church, we are going to find you and we're going to arrest you. Don Lemon and 8 others have now been charged in a single indictment because you cannot attack, and that's what it was. It was an attack style on a house of worship. Can't do it. It was a Sunday morning. There were parishioners, there were families, there were grandparents, there were people with canes, there were children upstairs in the nursery. They bombarded in, and as Don Lemon put it in his own words, they were on their way to a resistance at that church. And that's exactly what they did. They had a resistance operation. They barged in that church. There were originally about 400 people in that church. The video you're now showing, a lot of them ran out the back door. The lucky ones were able to get out. These people will say these parishioners thought they were going to get shot. One of the people with Don Lemon screamed, quote, "This ain't a house of worship. This is the house of the devil." There were children crying. There were parents.
Are y'all hearing this? This sounds so ridiculous. They thought they were going to get shot, but nobody had a gun out, did they? Why would they think they were going to be shot when no one brandished a firearm, ma'am? Okay, the embellishments of it all. Let's continue.
Parents blocked from getting upstairs to take their children out of Sunday school. A group of women ran out a side door. Multiple people fell on the ice. One woman severely damaged her arm, had to go to the hospital. Don Lemon blocked someone from going out that door. They were screaming at parishioners. It was horrible. No American, we don't live in a third world country. We live in the United States of America, and you will have the right to worship safely and freely in a house of worship, whether it's a church, a synagogue, a temple, a mosque, any house of worship in this country, you will be safe. And these people committed a crime under the FACE Act, and they will be held accountable. 9 of them have been charged, and you will not do this in our country. We're coming after you if you do this, because we are going to protect houses of worship. This is not what our country was founded on.
It's amazing because the left love the FACE Act. There's a couple of provisions in it. One allows access for women to go to abortion clinics. And then the provision you're referring to, provision 247 and 248, I would argue are applicable. And it's very clear. Now, I look at the tape, and you don't have to weigh in on it because you're involved in the case. I see Don Lemon, giving out donuts, coffee, commentary that seems incredibly supportive. He's entitled to his opinion. Abby Lowe's a good attorney. Will that have any weight with the judge that he really used to be, on CNN, for example?
Well, he was fired from CNN, and anyone who has a camera then would have a license to attack a church. What he was doing originally, they met in a parking lot about 2 miles away while people were filing into this church service. They were caravanning to this church to perform an attack-style infiltration of a church service on a Sunday morning.
She can't even get her lies together. She said they were trying to form an attack-style infiltration on a church on a Sunday morning. What? An attack-style infiltration in a church on a Sunday morning. That was their plan? Who did they attack? This is so sad, but hold on. You all are going to see something in a minute. Hold on.
It came in through all doors. All the people we've charged did this. All of them. That's him in the church confronting the pastor. The pastor will say he was scared. His parishioners were scared. We just know there was a church shooting recently in Minneapolis. They did not know. You can't do this, Sean, in this country. Yes, it's a violation of the law to do what they did, and we will hold you accountable. So anyone with a camera then would be allowed, under his theory, to come in and attack a church like that and riot a church on a Sunday morning or on a Saturday if it's a synagogue. You can't do that in this country. It's illegal. We're going to prosecute you and you will be held accountable. Doesn't matter if you're a failed journalist with a camera in your hand. You can't do it.
No, she didn't. This is how you can tell it's personal, because she called him a failed journalist with a camera in your hand. That's Trump's talking points. That's the same exact way Trump speaks about people. Okay? And he disparages them, calls them losers and things like that. I told you all of them have that energy that they're getting from Trump. Okay? Energy is contagious. And I told you the other day how they're all mimicking Trump's exact same talking points. Barilla Saloon says Blondie is making me lose brain cells. Okay? Exactly. Thank you for insight into the topic and your contribution to the channel, beloved. I appreciate you. Peace, love, and blessings. But here's the thing. Before we go to what Don Lemon said on this interview, with CBS, let's go to this brief clip, because what some people don't know is why Bondi, aka Blondie, goes so hard in the paint for Trump. Well, you know, Trump gave her $25,000 for her campaign donations. Okay? Yeah. Let's get into it. That's why she's working for him right now.
Whether Donald Trump's $25,000 donation to Bondi's campaign influenced her decision not to investigate fraud allegations against Trump University.
There was nothing improper about it, so there was no reason to return it.
Bondi at issue.
I'm sorry, say what? Y'all hear that? She said there was nothing improper about it, so there's no need to return it. It was very improper. It was a conflict of interest. It was a bribe, is what it looks like. It looks like a bribe. You're filing charges against this man. He all of a sudden gives you $25,000 for your campaign, and then no charges are filed. Okay, that reeks of bribery. Okay, I'm telling you all, these people are corrupt. These people are corrupt, in my opinion. Now, with that all being said, let's go to what Don Lemon had to say. Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. Hold on. Hold on here. Yeah, let's go to Don Lemon. But I have something else. Don't let me forget, okay? Now, let me go ahead and share my screen. Likes up, everyone, please. Like and share. Thank you in advance. Here we go.
Journalist Don Lemon, who was covering an anti-ICE protest in Minneapolis at a church, has raised questions over what is protected under the First Amendment. Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche argues Lemon was violating the right to freely practice religion when he entered the church. Others say his arrest was infringing on the freedom of the press. On Jimmy Kimmel Live last night, the former CNN anchor insisted he was doing his job and claimed the Trump administration was trying to instill fear.
I'm not a protester. I went there to be a journalist. I went there to chronicle and document and record what was happening. I was following that one group around, and so that's what I did. I reported on them. They want to embarrass you. They want to intimidate you. They want to instill fear.
Let's bring in Jed Rubenfeld to discuss this. He's a professor at Yale Law School and a columnist for the Free Press. And we should note the Free Press and CBS News have the same parent company, Paramount Skydance. Jed, good morning. You write in your column that it's actually not clear in such a case which way the First Amendment values cut. Help our viewers understand why that is, because Don Lemon is defending himself by saying he has a First Amendment right to practice as a journalist, but the charges being brought against him are also part of the First Amendment. So break that down for us.
Yeah, it's an unusual case that way. You got people who are, saying they're exercising their First Amendment rights of protest, but they're doing it to, disrupt other people who are trying to exercise their First Amendment freedoms of religious worship. So it's kind of like a clash between First Amendment interests. That's an unusual case. And, you can't say that the First Amendment cuts clearly and cleanly one way or the other. You got First Amendment interests on both sides.
And what your article clearly shows is the limits on any rights that people have. The first judge, though, to review this case specifically didn't feel there was enough probable cause to bring charges. The administration appealed that, and then we saw the arrest of Don Lemon last week. But how does the fact that the first judge to look at the facts didn't feel that there was enough there, how does that change the perception of what's happening in this case?
If I'm Lemon's lawyers, I'm going to hammer on that fact, but it doesn't really make much of a difference, legally speaking, at all. What happened was, after a magistrate judge, that's the lowest kind of federal judge, said, no, there's no probable cause for Lemon here. The government went to a grand jury. That's 23 people. And the grand jury said, yeah, there is probable cause. And by the way, an appellate judge, looking at that magistrate's ruling, an appellate judge, the only appellate judge to come in on this, said, yeah, there is probable cause. So the initial denial, it doesn't make much of a difference, legally speaking.
And for our viewers, I mean, this was all, or some of this was streamed live. There's likely footage people can look at.
Okay, so they're just talking about how Don Lemon met with some of the protesters ahead of time. Well, here's the thing. Just because he met with them ahead of time, that still doesn't mean that he conspired with them to do what they did. Okay? Because even if he wasn't going to go inside the church and report on it, that was not going to stop them from going to the church and protesting. Okay? They'd already decided to do that. Okay? And we know, well, we should know at least, that journalists get tips on stories all the time. Journalists get tips on stories all the time. So they gave him a tip. We're going here to this church. We're going to protest. We just found out that the pastor is ICE, and we're going to put a protest. You might want to come and report on it. Okay, and so now he goes and reports on it. Now he's in trouble. Please miss me with it. No, that's the First Amendment. That's the First Amendment right. But here's the thing. There's a lady that went into a church, MAGA. Okay, she went and interrupted a whole church service. So let's see if Pam Blondie is going to go, if she's going to come after her. Is the DOJ currently investigating this? Because I find it to be absolutely appalling and egregious. Okay, please pay attention. Now, hold on, though. Hold on. Let me get my overlay. Because I don't know if this podcast is on ScrewTube or not. Okay, here we go.
Bible at a pedophile church and they escorted me out.
I would say Romans 1:32, homosexuality is a sin, and whoever supports that is worthy of death. You're not a pastor, you're a satanic pedophile church. Leave your pride behind, get on your knees, and follow Jesus Christ. Ask God for forgiveness. Follow Jesus Christ. He's the way, the truth, and the life. Do not use his name in vain. Because that's exactly what this church is doing. He's using his name in vain. This church is an abomination. All of you are an abomination.
when I'm in Congress, I'm taking away the 501(c)(3) status of pedophile churches and terrorist mosques. We will ban halal, hijabs, and once their terrorist funding dries up, I'm going to start buying them and tearing down every mosque one by one. I look forward to making Texas the worst place for groomers and terrorist Muslims to live in, so help me God. Jesus is King.
And the funny thing is, these people actually think they're Christians. Yikes. Okay, I want y'all to pay attention. She's basically calling Muslims terrorists. So all Muslims are terrorists? There's no Christians that have ever been terrorists. Okay, like Dylan Roof. All right, I'm sorry. The Columbine shooters. I'm sure there has been. Okay, and most mass shooters, specifically in this country, are Caucasian males. Another thing, too, that reminds me, speaking of Caucasian males, you know, it's such the hypocrisy because how they're going in about Alex Preddy having a gun at that protest, but Kyle Rittenhouse had a gun at a protest openly, carrying a big arse gun. And they didn't have a problem with that. They said he was exercising his Second Amendment right, which he was. But so was Alex Preddy. Alex Preddy wasn't even brandishing his, though. It was on his hip in a holster. And then when they took it from him, they killed him. And he's a terrorist, a domestic terrorist, they call him, but not Kyle Rittenhouse, who murdered 2 people. We could say if he hadn't brought that gun, then he wouldn't have had to kill anyone, right? So you see how they play this little game. And here's another thing that's so stupid also. Like I told you all, MAGA sitting there acting like they're winning because Nicki Minaj is on their side, but Nicki Minaj is a whole immigrant. And then when she came out talking about that gold card, okay, they're big up in her, right? Because she thinks that's her highway to freedom or whatever. And so they're big up in her. But how are y'all big up in her when y'all are the same people going in about immigrants and so glad how ICE is treating them and glad to see them being deported? You see how these people have no moral ground to stand on? Okay? This all they have is selective outrage. That's all that is. And then Nicki Minaj is equally as stupid because she's sitting there talking about, oh, if y'all continue to vote for the Democrats, okay, like we're crazy if we vote for the Democrats. And then it's talking about, oh, I wasn't going to tell the stuff that I know, but since people want to keep bullying. Well, what do you know, Nikki? If you know anything nefarious about the Democrats, please tell it. But you should have already told it if you knew anything. Okay. At the end of the day, what is it? Is it something SEXual? Is it something like what's in the Epstein files? Because what I find interesting about that also is that Nikki wants to act like she has a scoop on the Democrats, but what about with Trump? All the stuff that's been said about him in the Epstein files. What about all the people that he's connected to, has had business dealings with? Brett Ratner directed his wife's own movie. Elon Musk. What about all these other people that he's been so friendly with? Steve Bannon. All of these people that he's, been politicking with for years that are all in the Epstein files. But she's cool with Trump. But oh, let me tell y'all the tea on the Democrats. Yeah, you better tell us the tea on the Republicans too. Okay, because I know you should have some. Because they're all peas in the same pot as far as I'm concerned. And here's the thing. Nikki also doesn't need to be trying to tell anybody anything about any sort of depraved and nefarious acts because her husband, we already know about him. Okay, y'all saw what the response was from the Democrats. I showed y'all this morning when the White House posted Barb's getting to the bag, and the Dems responded saying her husband is an S offender, by the way. Okay, that shut that right on down. So Nikki's husband is an S offender, and so is her brother. Okay, so is her brother, and we know that she was trying to get her brother less time and all of that. So we know she doesn't have a problem with those type of people. So if you don't have a problem with those type of people, what problems does she have with the Democrats? Okay, because like I said, all of these politicians are same bird. Okay, just different feathers. And that's it, and that's all. Now, with that all being said, I guarantee you nothing's going to be done about that lady that just walked in there and interrupted that church service. Okay? But now let's go to the story about Jill Biden. Jill Biden's ex-husband killed his wife, allegedly. This is what they are reporting. And I find it also interesting because this man came out and did an interview a few years ago. Let's get into it. Likes up, everyone, please like and share. I'm going to share my screen. And then we got to talk about Trump because he's clearly got Cuba in a chokehold.
And former First Lady Jill Biden has been charged with killing his wife.
Former First Lady Jill Biden's ex-husband has been charged with murder.
64-year-old Linda Stevenson, seen here in this exclusive Inside Edition video, was found dead in her living room on December 28th in Delaware. But after a month-long investigation, police say they found evidence of foul play, and Stevenson has now been charged with first-degree murder. Police won't say how his wife was killed. We spoke to Stevenson in 2020 when Joe Biden was running for president against Donald Trump. Back then, Stevenson made the blockbuster allegation that the Bidens were not telling the truth when they said they met on a blind date in 1975. He claims they met 3 years earlier while Joe's first wife, Nelia, was alive.
I introduced Joe to Jill in 72. Jill, Joe, Nelia, and I were in his kitchen. How do you forget that?
At the time, Jill Biden's spokesperson told us these claims are fictitious. The relationship of Joe and Jill Biden is well documented. They gushed to me about their relationship.
She was sitting across the bar with a common friend, and I said, "Is that Linda?" And he said, "Yes." And from that day on, we've never been apart.
Wow. Quite a romantic, this guy,
Yeah.
it seems like, right?
Yes.
He was persistent.
Yes, very.
William Stevenson's bail has been set at $500,000 cash. So far, the Bidens have not commented on the arrest.
Can you imagine that? Okay, she thought they were just all in love, honey. Now he's taking her up out of here and sent her straight into the spiritual realms. Oh, so sad. Okay, may she rest in peace. Prayers for her family, friends, and loved ones, honey. That's all crazy. Now let's go to Trump, because let me tell you all something. Trump has Cuba pretty much in a chokehold. Okay, he's basically not sending them any oil. They only have about 20 days left of oil, like 20 to 30 days. Okay, somebody said 12 days, but from the reports I saw, it's more close to like 20 or 30, I think, that they have left for oil. And if they run out of oil, they have no power, the water supply, everything's going to be disrupted. Some of the people are trying to flee. They have a banking crisis because, you know, some of the banks are telling them you better come and get your money as quick as you can because we're not going to be able to stay open. There's not going to be any power. Okay, so this is all crazy. And then Trump had the nerve to tell other countries, you know, that if anybody sends them oil, he's going to hit them with tariffs. Okay, and he mainly meant that for Mexico because Mexico was going to help them. That's one of their allies. And, you know, they've been getting their oil historically from Venezuela. So, you know, since Trump kidnapped Maduro and he's taken over their oil, well, he's holding it hostage. Okay, so this is what this man's doing, honey, just bullying everybody. Okay, Buckhurst DC says, and our God is God. Exactly. Exactly, beloved. Thank you for your contribution to the channel. I appreciate you and your insight into the topic. Peace, love, and blessings. Okay, so now let's go to this because now it says Trump says he is starting to talk to Cuba. Okay, let's get into it. Likes up, everyone. Please don't forget to like and share. Thank you in advance.
We're starting to talk to Cuba. You know, we're starting to look. They need help on a humanitarian basis. We're starting to talk to Cuba. Don't forget, a lot of people that live in our country were treated very badly by Cuba. And we want them to be, they all voted for me, and we want them to be treated well. We'd like to be able to have them go back to home to their country, which they haven't seen their family, their country for many, many decades.
Response to Claudia Sheinbaum's warning that the embargo or the restriction on Cuban oil to Cuba could cause a humanitarian crisis there.
Well, it doesn't have to be humanitarian crisis. I think they probably would come to us and want to make a deal. So Cuba would be free again. They'll come to us, they'll make a deal, but Cuba really, they've got a problem. You know, they have a problem. I know so many people from Cuba, but we have a lot of people in the United States right now that would love to go back to Cuba, and we'd like to work that out.
What do you want to see from Cuba? I mean, what do you need to see?
Well, we'll work a deal. I think we're going to work a deal with Cuba. I think, we'll be.
Did y'all hear that? Said he's going to be kind. Now, here's the thing. What I find interesting is that he says there's a lot of people in the United States that want to go back to Cuba, and they're going to see if they can arrange that. Trump, do these people want to go back to Cuba, or are you deporting them back to Cuba? Okay, now I want y'all to pay attention because a lot of these Cubans voted for Trump because they thought they had protected status. Now pay attention to this. Okay, now he's sending them back to their own country after he ruins it.
Turns their attention at the same time to Cuba. Now you are free to count it now. America is dealing with Iran. America is dealing with Mexico. America is dealing with France. America is dealing with Canada. America is dealing with UK. America is dealing with South Africa. America is dealing with Nigeria. I've mentioned about 7 countries. America is dealing with so many countries at the same time. Yes. I don't know whether it is a fight against multipolarism or whatever it is. I don't know. But this time around, it is Cuba. Then for students of history, I know you're not going to be surprised. And then my political science student, of course, you should be very much aware of this thing. Now, America is saying that recently they passed a document, to tighten up tariff again, make life more difficult, suffocate Cuba completely. They are saying that Cuba is aligning with China and Russia. These are countries that, as far as US is concerned, stand as a threat to the US. Now, in no recent history has the US called China and Russia threat. Even during this issue with Greenland, the US never came out to call China or Russia a threat. Trump always said, I love the people of China. Russia is, Putin is a very great person, this and stuff like that. But this time around, the US is now calling Russia and China threat. Of course. But then we know the truth. We know they're lying, that Russia and China are not the problem. There's one major factor among several issues. The US politicians will always do whatever it takes to impress the voters in Florida. Yeah. Now, I'm going to get back to that. Now, if you've been following history, since 1959, Cuba rejected the US. Cuba kicked out US companies and then nationalized their asset. Cuba has made sure that they are running a one-party system. And that is a threat to the US, to tell the US that it is not only democracy, multi-party system that works, that we can do things our own way and still survive it. Cuba has been trading with China, with Russia, with Venezuela. Do you understand? And that is a big problem to United States of America. And during the Soviet Union, the Cold War, the Soviet Union used Cuba to position their weapons. So that one alone lingers in the minds of the US, and they would never forgive it. But then back to what I said. Every US politician, because of how important Florida is, and of course, about 7 to 8% of people in Florida are Cubans. Do you understand? A lot of them were displaced from Cuba and then they moved to the US. The older generation, mostly those that left Cuba in the 80s and 90s, are still very much angry with the government of Cuba, not because they hate their own country. Do you understand? So because of that vast population that is against Cuba, the US politicians will do anything, whatever it takes, to impress them so that they can always, in fact, it is said that being soft on Cuba, as far as Florida is concerned, is a political suicide. And being hard on in Cuba shows that we can trust you. And if you don't win in Florida, I mean, in terms of an election, then what are we talking about? To me, that's just what I think. That's just what it is. There are a lot of things about US and Cuba, but to me, this stands out. Because there's no reason whatsoever for America to want to stifle the remaining thing that's left in Cuba. Cuba is almost dead. There's nothing left. And then you are still creating more problem for them. If not for the voters in Florida, what else? What else? Now, I just said, let me bring this to you so that you know. Because Fernandez Obiva knows. What do you know?
All right, honey. He put a lot of thought into that, didn't he? It all makes sense. Okay, now let's continue. Trump, honey, Trump is on a war path. That's what he is. He is hungry for power or with power.
Right now, we have breaking news. President Trump declaring a national emergency over threats by Cuba. The president issued an executive order tonight saying the policies and actions of the Cuban regime directly threaten the safety and national security of the United States.
So with Donald Trump making this announcement, with this executive decision, what do you think is going to take place when it comes down to the United States and Cuban relations here in America? Not just in America, but around the world itself. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and I'll try to keep you guys updated when it comes down to this information. So make sure you like this video.
Okay, let's go to the next clip.
Shortages as Donald Trump ramps up pressure on its government to make a deal. So will the US force the regime change it has long sought in the communist nation? Cuba has been in the president's sights since the January operation that saw Venezuela's leader, Nicolas Maduro, removed and taken to the US to face criminal charges. That saw shipments from Cuba's largest supplier cut off, with power blackouts worsening and the price of food, fuel and transport all soaring. Last Thursday, Donald Trump went further, signing an executive order threatening additional tariffs on the countries that sell oil to Cuba and labelling the communist-led government an unusual and extraordinary threat to US national security. That prompted Mexico, which supplies around 44% of Cuba's oil, to warn of a humanitarian disaster. But the president isn't backing down.
Well, Cuba's a failing nation. It has been for a long time, but now it doesn't have Venezuela to prop it up. So we're talking to the people from Cuba, the highest people in Cuba.
The Cuba's president has fired back, writing, under a false and baseless pretext, President Trump intends to suffocate the Cuban economy. The situation there is grim, with residents reporting Havana is going without power for up to 12 hours each day, and there is no fuel.
I signed up for a ticket to buy fuel 2 months ago and I still haven't received it.
We don't have gas, we don't have anything. I'm telling you, there needs to be a miracle. I'm not against the country because we've always been, you understand me, Fidel Castro's people, my whole family. I am until I die. Sometimes when the power goes out, accidents happen because the traffic lights don't work. I sometimes have to leave work early in the morning and there's no light. Look, they just turned off the lights right now.
Cuba's tourism industry, which once generated up to $3 billion a year, is also taking a hit, with hotels empty and tour operators forced to slash prices.
Okay, so it sounds like a whole lot of chaos, complete and utter chaos. Now, let's talk about this other chaos that's going on thanks to Trump. Okay, so now we know, I told you all the other day, I reported to you how the FBI had raided a Georgia election office, okay, looking for information pertaining to the 2020 election that Trump claims was stolen right out of his reach. Okay, so let's talk about it, because they say Tulsi Gabbard was there when it all went down. And now she's saying that Trump directed her to be at the site. Okay, but I want to know why. So we're going to talk about that. But also, you know, they're very upset about this. And Democracy Now! Did a report where they're saying that, you know, Trump's doing this basically so he can steal or rig the election. Okay, so we're going to listen to that as well. Okay, so likes up, everyone, please don't forget to like and share. Thank you in advance. I'm going to share the screen.
Here joins me now from the White House. Also with me, former Democratic Senator from Montana, John Tester, also an MS Now political analyst. Chris O'Leary is a former senior FBI official, as well as an MS Now national security and intelligence analyst. So, Chris, looking at this footage out of Georgia, it's clear there no notice was given, that the warrant itself, at least initially, had some problems. Are you surprised by how all of this unfolded? What do you see when you watch this?
Well, what I see is highly disturbing, and the FBI being used as a weapon against political allies or political adversaries, excuse me. And unfortunately, the rebirth of the big lie. I mean, it looks like the president is anchoring this narrative that there's a manufactured crisis again with our electoral system, dating all the way back to 2020, which has been disproven. Who you see there is the acting special agent in charge, Pete Ellis, who I actually happen to know personally, but he's the acting special agent in charge because the special agent in charge of the Atlanta office, Paul Brown, another career professional, was pushed out just a week before this all went down. So you tether that together with Tulsi Gabbard's presence and the deputy director of the FBI, Andrew Bailey, both MAGA advocates down in Atlanta. This is all incredibly inappropriate, and I think very concerning for all Americans as we bring in our 250th year of our democracy. It looks like the Constitution's attempted to be shredded right in front of our own eyes.
So you add to that what we're seeing in this video, Senator, the remarks by the president to nationalize voting. And again, details are scarce, but he says he wants to fix a problem that numerous investigations and studies have shown does not exist. In your mind, should American voters be worried about this?
Yeah, they damn right should be worried about this. I mean, you nationalize the elections and you are going to have fraud, not only by folks who want to do reasons, but also by foreign countries influence our elections. So not only is this unconstitutional, and what makes this really bad, Chris, is that this administration hasn't really felt strongly about the first, second, fourth, the list goes on, amendments to the Constitution. To take voting rights to the national level is patently unconstitutional. And by the way, it opens itself up for incredible amounts of fraud, especially when you see this administration politicizing every agency within his administration.
Vaughn, the president suggested nationalizing elections almost casually. Are people telling him he has the power to do this? What do we know is the backstory here, if there is one?
It is not clear who would be telling him not to talk about trying to nationalize the midterm elections. We're 10 months away. And if you go back to, I think it's important, December 2020, in the aftermath of his election loss there, Sidney Powell, Michael Flynn, among others, made their way to the Oval Office and effectively pitched the then president of the United States on a would-be effort to seize voting machines. There was a draft of such an effort in the form of an executive order that was revealed by the January 6th Select Committee. And ultimately, he never issued that executive order or sought to do it. But the fact that we already have a history of his White House suggesting and considering such an attempted effort there is, I think, notable when you're looking at the president using the word nationalize to describe his intended efforts around these midterm elections. We should be very clear. Article 1 of the Constitution gives the power expressly to states and local jurisdictions to run their elections. The one way in which Washington, D.C. could impact the way votes and elections are conducted is through decisions and laws passed by Congress. Of course, we have seen Republicans in past years attempt to pass laws that would strengthen voter identification requirements. Democrats in 2021 tried to pass the John Lewis Voting Rights Act to set further pre-clearance orders for states seeking to make changes at the state level. Of course, there was the For the People Act as well that would have tried to make voter registration automatic and expand mail-in voting. But all of that through the Constitution would be done at.
Okay, so that will be done at the congressional level and signed into law by the president. Okay. Also, I meant to tell you all, as it pertains to Cuba, you know, Trump is so serious about nobody giving them oil that he actually signed an executive order. Okay, new executive order, okay, to open the door to tariffs on any of the countries selling or supplying oil to Cuba, honey. Trump is a whole mess. But let's continue because I want to hear what they have to say on this report from Democracy Now! So let's listen to a little bit of this. Buckhurst, D.C. said this is amazing. It absolutely is, and diabolical at the same time, beloved. Certainly is.
Democracy Now!, democracynow.org. I'm Amy Goodman. We end today's show with the FBI raid of an election office in Georgia's Fulton County last week, seeking computers and ballots related to the 2020 election. The raid came as President Trump continues to falsely claim his defeat in the 2020 election was a result of widespread voting fraud. For more, we go to Ari Berman, voting rights correspondent for Mother Jones Magazine. His most recent piece headlined From Minnesota to Georgia, Trump's plans to interfere in the midterms are becoming more dangerous. Ari, talk about the significance of the Trump administration going after the blackest county election office in Georgia, and then Pam Bondi saying maybe they'll pull out the agents in Minnesota if they hand over voting rolls?
Yeah, we're seeing, Amy, a dramatic escalation of the administration's tactics to try to interfere in the 2026 midterm elections. The FBI raid in Fulton County represented the full weaponization of Trump's conspiracy theories about the 2020 election. The fact that they seized 700 boxes of ballots was incredibly disturbing and sets a chilling precedent for how Trump might try to interfere in the 2026 election, to do similar kind of things, to challenge election results he doesn't like. If he's challenging a result from 6 years ago, you can imagine how they're going to try to challenge the result of the upcoming election should Trump's party lose. And then in Minnesota, you have ICE basically terrorizing a blue state and a blue city, and the Attorney General of the United States essentially extorting that place to hand over voter rolls to the Department of Justice. So what I really want your listeners to understand is that this is now a multi-front concerted effort to try to interfere in the midterm elections that's taking place in a number of different ways from Georgia to Minnesota and beyond.
What happens to the computers and the data they took out of the Georgia election office?
Well, that's a very good question. It's one of the many unanswered questions about this raid in Fulton County. The FBI now has it. Who are they going to share it with? What are they going to do? Who's going to supervise this process? All of these records were under seal, and now they're in the hands of the Trump administration. And one of the biggest unanswered questions is why Tulsi Gabbard, the director of national intelligence, was there, because she is prohibited by law from participating in domestic law enforcement activity. So that's a giant red flag right there. Tulsi Gabbard shouldn't have been anywhere near that operation, anywhere near those ballots. And it seems to me like they're setting up to do something crazy, like saying, now we have the proof, we have the ballots, now we know Venezuela interfered in the election or Iran interfered in the election. And this is as much about, as I said, the 2020 election as it is about the next election. So they're going to continue lying about the 2020 election, so that then they can lie about the next election and try to interfere in a lot of different ways.
And then can you talk about the voting rolls of Minnesota?
Yeah, so what the Justice Department is trying to do is they're trying to get the voter rolls, not just of Minnesota, but of 24 states overall. And they want this data so they can have the first ever national database of all registered voters in the country. And that has a lot of problems with it. There's privacy problems. You're talking about sensitive information like driver's license, social security numbers, party history. There's security risks. It's a lot easier to
15
hack
seconds, Ari.
It's a lot easier to hack a massive database, but ultimately what they want to do is they want to lie about voter fraud, remove people from the rolls, and challenge election outcomes. And the attempt to take voter rolls is just a larger part of Trump's scheme to try to rig the midterms.
Thanks for watching Democracy Now! On YouTube. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications.
Okay, so what do you all think about that? Trying to steal the election. And that's exactly what I thought. Okay, as soon as they said that they came there and just raided that office, that's the first thing that came to mind, and likely to you all as well. Bookhurst DC says, just because I love you, my queen, and you get on my last nerve, don't tell it. Oh, really? So I get on your last nerve? Well, that's good because you darn sure get on mine sometimes, beloved. But I love you still. Thank you for your contribution to the channel and your kind words. I appreciate you. Peace, love, and blessings. Okay, so now, beloveds, we're almost done. I just have a couple of clips I want to go to, and then we're going to be out of here. So I want to go to what Billy Porter had to say about Little Miss Nicki Minaj. Okay, I want to go to what Billy Porter had to say about her. Because first of all, I didn't realize this was Billy Porter right away. I didn't even realize this was him right away.
We're on this topic because, Nicki Minaj has been trending, over her.
Fuck her. When people show you who they are, believe them the first time. And all of them. Shame. No. The answer is no. And I don't care what that means. I'm out. No. Y'all know what's right. The people want their paper, right? He didn't pardon P. Diddy. Right?
Speaking of this, we're on this topic because, Nicki Minaj.
Child, let me tell y'all something. I hope his breath was fresh. She was all up in her grill. Is he serious? Is he serious, Reggie? Let me know. Barbie said breath check. Okay. Ray said this man is on one. Isn't he always so, beloveds? Okay, so now with that all being said, listen, I want you all to see this video because I was watching it, and y'all know I have empathy and sympathy for people, especially when they're going through things or they're upset. But sometimes people be on here straight clout chasing, and I have to ask myself, why? Why do people do it? Now, this lady posted a video of herself sitting there looking at the camera crying while she played screaming, okay, because people, I guess, are being harassed or brutalized by ICE. But she's playing the screaming in the background, and she's sitting there just crying. And I was just thinking, lady, what is this for? How does this help? And why are you recording yourself crying? I just want to know you all's thoughts. Is it just me or? I don't get it. I don't get it. What's wrong with people? I just don't get it. Danger said Belisha Porter. Okay, you are so wrong for that. Byron B said another stupid person with a camera. I'm just saying, listen, I see things on TV online that make me sad or angry or whatever. But what I don't do ever, and nor would I, is just get on here and just sit here crying. If I was going to get on here and cry, if it did make me cry, something did, I would tell you why I'm crying, what's going on, what's happening. I would have some commentary to go along. I would be saying something. But just to turn on your camera, sit there, play audio in the background as you sit and stare and look forlorn and cry. First of all, you actually sat there and recorded yourself doing that, and then you uploaded it. And then you uploaded it. Sheila said the vein in her forehead. She was trying to force a cry. Reggie said, or the Blair Witch Project. Byron said, indeed, Queen, that makes sense. She doesn't. Okay. Like, I'm just like, why would you do it? Okay, please. But hold on. I think I have one more video for you all, just for kicks and giggles, and then we're out of here. Now, this white woman, she's a whole Karen. It's so obvious. She is going in on this other white woman who posted a video because the woman made a mistake. Okay, and I know she's annoyed because actually I get annoyed with stuff like this too because it's so easy not to make the mistake, but it's due to laziness. This lady did a video. Now, if you all remember a month or so ago, the black people that were in Minnesota, remember they were traveling from a game or trying to get out of the neighborhood or whatnot. And so ICE threw a flash grenade at their car and their baby, the 6-month-old, stopped breathing. You all remember that, right? Okay, so this lady, without doing any research, I guess she just took that and ran with it. She did a video saying that the baby had died. And I think she said ICE shot the baby. Okay, because that's what made me click on her video. Because I saw a video that said, I shot a baby. And I'm like, I shot a baby? What? When did this happen? And then I looked at the date and I'm like, wait a minute. Nah, no, I would have heard about this. This would have been all over the news. So I said, are they talking about that little black baby? That baby didn't get shot. And it's still living, last I checked. But so, yeah, that's where I was. There was one video, because there was actually two people that did at least, probably more than that, but at least two people that I saw that did videos saying the child actually had died. Okay, so the first one I saw said the baby got shot. And then that led me to look at another video. I think that's the girl that sit up there telling the story, and the lady is responding. Okay, so anyway, Buckhurst DC said she lied. Well, I don't think she lied on purpose. I don't think she lied because lying comes with intent. I think she just made a mistake. But she made the mistake because she didn't Google the story. All she had to do was do a bit of research, Google the story, and it would have shown her, you know what I'm saying, what really happened. So anyway, let's go to this video because the Karen of it all is going in on her. Okay, she's going in on this lady. And also, here's the thing I want you to notice more so, even more so than Karen going in on this lady who made a mistake. The thing of it is that she's basically telling people to give up their rights, saying that people should not be out there protesting, that ICE isn't the problem, the protesters are, and they should go home. They're acting like spoiled children, basically throwing tantrums. She sounds ridiculously obtuse. And it's the nerve. I want you all to pay attention to the nerve of this Caucasian woman, because there are some white people who absolutely have a lot of audacity. Okay, they have a whole lot of audacity and entitlement. And the fact that they think they can tell, other people what to do, specifically people who look like me. But she's basically telling these people, because they're immigrants, no less, and she feels like she's better than them, I'm sure. But she's basically saying they need to go home, and these people, they don't need to be here. And she's even telling the white lady, okay, y'all need to go home. They might be your neighbor, but they don't belong in the neighborhood, basically. Okay, so that's what I want you all to pay attention to. And then she tells them how they should complain about it, how they should be taking care of the problem. She wants to tell them how they should express their own frustration. I mean, it's the gall of it all. Okay, but let's get into it. And she literally goes on and on.
With a 6-month-old baby. A man tried to leave his neighborhood with his 6 children to get away from the danger of the ICE raids. The ICE officers then threw flashbangs and tear gas into the car full of 6 children, and the 6-month-old baby died. And not that this really fucking matters, but they were all citizens. And really, I don't think you can blame it on people being dumb anymore. If you support this, you're fucking evil.
Okay, as you know, we try really hard. We try really hard on this page to make sure it's facts over fiction. So if you watch that video, she goes on, and boy, what a travesty. This is the second one that I've seen today about a false murder, or the falsehood or the lies that someone has been killed by an ICE agent. First of all, the 6-month-old baby and child was not shot by ICE agents, nor was it murdered, nor did it even die. Here's the reality, and here's the truth of the situation. This family, they are U.S. American citizens. They lived in that neighborhood. I love how she says because of the ICE raids. It's not because of the ICE raids. It's because of the morons that are out there agitating ICE while they're doing their jobs, causing conflict and impeding federal investigations. Now, I will say that this poor family tried to get their asses out of the neighborhood, because there's all kinds of shit going on outside their front door because of the shenanigans of people like you. And you go out here and you say there's evil in the world. I agree. The people that can walk up to a federal agent and throw shit in his face and scream and try to put their hands on him and impede an investigation and cause all this chaos and create these riots, and families are trying to escape to get out of them. ICE wasn't shooting at this family. They were trying to stop the rioting. And this family got caught in the crossfire of it. Their vehicle got caught in the crossfire of that. And unfortunately, it did. It was toxic. They all had issues breathing. They all had to go to the hospital. They were treated for breathing issues, and then they were all released. But here's what's fucking evil, as you put it. Getting on the internet and spreading and sharing actual lies. It would take anyone, again, it's 2.2 seconds to get online and say, did the 6-month-old baby in Minneapolis die that was in the middle of a crossfire with rioting? Did they die? No. You know how we can keep little 6-month-old babies from being tarnished by tear gas and being caught in a crossfire? Stay home. Go home. Stop rioting. Stop causing chaos. Stop causing trouble. You are the problem. ICE isn't the problem. You're sitting there saying that you're trying to do your neighbors a disservice. Some of your neighbors don't belong in the neighborhood. They may be your neighbors. They may have an address for 2 doors down, but that does not mean they don't need to be removed from the neighborhood. Let them go in there and do their job. Again, if you don't like what they're doing, and if you don't like ICE, protest it in ways that matter. I told you they did it in Aurora, Colorado last night. They got together for a county and civic matter. And they all got together at the courthouse. They all had a hearing, and they were protesting. They were anti-ICE, and they won. You know how they did it? With intelligence, with clear speaking. I don't agree with what they did, but I'm telling you. And they showed up, and they petitioned their local politicians and congressmen and the people that could use their voice to speak on their behalf. And that's where they had progress. Do you think you're helping any of your immigrants in the neighborhood by doing what you're doing? No. What you are doing is catching babies in the crossfire. So how about you knock your shit off? How about everybody goes home, take their blowhorns and their rape whistles and everything else, and stop doing what you're doing and doing it the right way? You're not peacefully protesting. You're rioting. You're rioting and you're causing havoc. And then you're blaming ICE because people are getting caught in this mess. You don't want to see 6-month-old babies get hurt, or adults get hurt, or somebody walking their child home, or having to barricade themselves in their home. You go home. Behave yourself. You're acting like petulant toddlers who didn't get their way. Grow up.
Well, I guess she told them. Okay, did y'all hear it? Honey, she went all in. Okay, Argentine said, Karen, shut your mouth, okay? Reggie said, and she means it. That's what makes her so insidious. Exactly. Okay, she was going hard in the paint. Here's the thing, though. She wants to tell them how to do it. Like I said, she's telling them what they did in Colorado and telling them they should do it like that. But here's also the thing. This is the same type of woman. This is the whole Karen, mind you. Okay, you can tell she's on the right. But this is the same type of woman that had no problem. I promise you, I guarantee you, she had no problem with the January 6th rioters. Okay, I guarantee she had no problem with the rioters. Okay, and she's one of those people who, when things are not going her way and things are going, against her, she'll be one of the first people out there protesting, raising hell. And those people are not rioting. There's no stores being set on fire, being the windows kicked in or whatever. Okay, there's nobody out there looting. What is she talking about, rioting? No, they're not. ICE is the problem. Okay, she thought it was a problem because somebody gets up in ICE's face, but she didn't think it was a problem that they were dragging a disabled woman out of her car. She didn't think it was a problem that they're busting out people's windows and snatching them up, and they dragged a poor pregnant woman out of her vehicle and she lost her baby. Okay? They didn't have a problem with any of that, or she didn't have a problem with that. But she's upset because people get in ICE's face, and also because there's people out there protesting against their nefarious actions. And she's saying, and I want you all to pay attention because this is a prime example of how, perception is reality. Because many people looking at that whole scenario would absolutely say that ICE is the problem, and that if it weren't for ICE, being reckless and not being well trained and just being overzealous in most instances, if not all, then that baby wouldn't have gotten caught up in the crossfire. But Karen doesn't see it that way at all. She sees it the way of, if those people had not been out there protesting and complaining and whining and crying like toddlers and throwing tantrums, then that wouldn't have happened. That's how she sees it. But that is their constitutional right. That's the same woman who would raise hell if they tried to take away her Second Amendment rights, if they tried to take away her guns. I'm sure she would raise hell. But it's okay for them to take away these people's First Amendment rights because it's getting on her nerves and she doesn't want to have to deal with it. Okay, please pay attention. With that all being said, I'm going to conclude the broadcast. Okay, I want to thank you all for tuning in once again. Please like, share, subscribe. Okay, I hope you all enjoy the rest of this night. And I will see you all in the morning with your morning wake-up call. And I got to get on here early in the morning. I can't just be in here all getting started so late in the afternoon because it just throws off my whole day, like I told y'all. So anyway, with that all being said, I love you all to life. Each one teach one. That's how we grow and thrive. Do something productive, constructive, but never destructive. And always remember, beloveds, to keep the Most High first in your lives. Peace.
With that gold all in my skin, God all in my blood, kings all in my circle. You touch one of mine and you're done. They show no love for the queen. Why you hating on me? Is it cause I'm free and I got Malcolm X in my jeans? I got dreams like King Luther, shed blood like Kunsa. You ain't helping my people, I ain't got nothing to say to ya. I want all the smoke like hookah. Talking reparations, America won't be great until they give us compensation. I'm like, I'm the hottest right now. See a bunch of lames out here trying to jock on my style. They be doing too much. I'm the queen, it's too easy. It's like they all at Popeyes, how they be talking so greasy. I just sit back and laugh while these haters get madder. So nefarious how they don't want my pockets with cheddar. I tell them they can do better. These snakes in the grass can leave a bite on your ass, cause y'all be trusting too fast. I got my foot on the gas, other one on they necks. Dropping receipts on haters, you better show some respect. I'm never facing regrets, we only facing the threats. Running through every challenge like a relay, break no sweat. It's a cold game, so I got that blanket with me. Now that my people awaken, ain't no going to sleep. I do not play by my piece. This time I'm playing for keeps. You talking slick, but when I see you like them ends, we gon' meet. And I got gold all in my skin, God all in my blood, kings all in my circle. You touch one of mine and you done. They show no love for the queen. Why they hating on me? Is it cause I'm free and I got Malcolm X in my jeans and I got gold all in my skin, God all in my blood, kings all in my circle. You touch one of mine and you done. They show no love for the queen. Why they hating on me? Is it cause I'm free and I got Malcolm X in my jeans and I got